Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are back with our third episode, and today we have with us Mr. Abdulaziz Zaini. Thank you so much, Abdulaziz. Let's start with an introduction to you.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh and Ramadan Kareem to all of you. And thank you for inviting me over for this opportunity. My name is Abdulaziz Zaini. I'll speak about my personal background. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. I'm lucky to have 3 daughters. Alhamdulillah, my life has always been blessed because that I have always been given the opportunity, and whenever that it was given to me, I have always tried to act on it. I started my career over 12 years ago when I just came back after my higher degree from the US. And right after coming back, it was a little bit different because I started, before I started my career, I got married. And that has put me on a challenge from the get-go. I have a family to support, yet I don't have an income. And we come from a family that don't usually give us the easy way out. So they ask us to just figure it out. So when you operate from that mindset, you always think creatively and find a solution. And alhamdulillah, I found that to be a secret way of going about challenges. And I think in this day and age, this is where we feel it is very important to utilize this internal instinct when the going gets tough. I started my career with Goody for 4 years. Then I've always been looking for opportunities, and it was never been short of finding an extension to find a growth way. Whenever when I saw something that I just went on it, there was fears sometimes. There was a lot of times where there is uncertainty. But the good thing, whenever you take that chance, whenever you take that risk and you look later backward, you say, yes, I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I was the catalyst of that change. And whatever I took, I have never regretted back again. And when you fast forward, alhamdulillah, now I am here, director of marketing in Halwani. There is another challenge. And yes, sometimes that kind of challenges in this my current career that keeps me awake. But I always think whenever you're out of your comfort, that's where the growth really happens, and that's where I really start to get comfortable with myself. When I feel that little bit uncertain and uncomfortable, I say, this is probably the right thing, and this is the risk that we really all want to embrace.
Excellent, excellent. The second question, and now we come to the meat of the conversation. The second question is, a new decade is starting, and no one seems to be talking about it. Everyone is focused on the corona scenario, and rightly so. Obviously, it's upon us. But the next decade is starting, whether we want it or not. So the question to you is, do you think the next 10 years will be better or they will be worse than the last 10 years?
I think this is a very good question because it triggers you to be a forward thinker. You think about the future, and that's, I think, one of the traits that we all have to be in order to predict and prepare ourselves. And I think before we start to think about this question, if we talk about the larger context, if you look about history in general, and we talk about how things have been evolving throughout the years, we see a common trend that usually every decade is followed by a big challenge that changes every direction or every common ground, and then it starts again. And I think it is for those who are ready to accept the challenge, number one, and two, also to be prepared mentally how to adapt and to make an advantage of it. And I think it is those who are quick in adapting and it is those are flexible and are not really tied into the past, are the ones that come victorious at the end of those challenges. So my answer to this question is, it really doesn't matter. It really matters how the leaders who are going to paint the future are willing to make it. When you go back and you think who was responsible of the biggest trends in the past, and when you talk about revolutions, when you talk about revolution in industries and new technologies, you can go back and think of personalities, people. When you say, for example, in telecommunication, Steve Jobs was a pioneer in it. So he was someone thinking ahead in the future, and he had a passion and he had a dream. And when he saw the opportunity, he acted on it and he just made it happen. And I think it is up to us, the leaders of the future, how we really want to make it for our new generations. And it is not the time to fall into the victim mentality. You say, no, this is not my fault. This is someone else's. I really can't do anything about it. And then we get into that vicious cycle, negativity. I think it is the right time, because now the whole globe is becoming interconnected. Now I can very easily, at a push of a button, I can communicate with someone who is on the other side of the globe and convince him on a big idea, on a new trend, and we can just together can make it happen. These have not been luxuries that were available to the past generations. And now we have to understand and appreciate the age that we are in, and we just fast forward and be the change that we really want to be in the future.
So if I understand your point of view correctly, what you're saying is that the next 10 years will continue to create new opportunities, but these opportunities are not going to be there for the taking for everyone. The rules of the game will be the same, which is if you are fast, if you're aggressive, if you're looking for opportunities, and you don't get scared, and you're willing to use the opportunity, you will win. So the next 10 years will be good for those who are brave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And Ali, I don't think there was any generation or in any industry that went out because the resources ran out. When you talk about the revolution, the industrial revolution, and when it was preceded by the information revolution, it wasn't because the industrial revolution wasn't working. It is just simply was replaced by the information technology, because there was something that is far better and more efficient. And that's where the challenge is going to come from. It is not going to be in our age that because there is no food supply, or there is no security, or because of we're running out of oil. It is not going to be that challenge. The challenge is going to come from something that we haven't thought of yet, and it will be far easier and it will be much more efficient. But it is up to us to let go and to start to experiment and to start to take those kind of risks if we really want to make the future much better for us.
Excellent. Okay, now the third question is, in your opinion, which one trend is going to be key for the next 10 years?
I think, Ali, yes, trends come and go, and that's the nature of life. The trends that I really think are going to continue to disrupt us are innovation. I think innovation, it is the common ground that it will continue. And with innovation, I think self-awareness, it is going to be very important, because we are, I think, at an identity crisis that we are going through as a global village. We are starting to forget what are really our common interests, what we really want to be. We are rather becoming conformed, or we're trying to be we're trying to please so many people, and not forgetting and yet forgetting our common objective. Each of us they have their own mission that God have put us on this place to achieve. And I think if we lack the self-awareness, and then as a technology and innovation as a trend, we basically have it as a disadvantage to us, not as an advantage. You see, people are trying to just to be on the latest technology. They're trying to be on top of whatever comes along. Yet that distracts them of what they are genuinely needs to be pursuing. So if we ask the question, what do we really want to achieve at the end of our lives? If we fast forward and we look at the end of our lives and we say, how have I spent my life? We say we usually start to see not very clear answers because it is becoming very fast. We are running at unprecedented rates, and all of a sudden we start to be short-term driven and not a long-term driven. Where I think the only thing that we need to be clear of is to ask, what is my case that I really want to fight for, and what I really want all the trends that are happening or are gonna come in the future to help me to achieve that, regardless of whatever happens in the universe.
It's very interesting you say that. What I've been trying to do for the last few weeks is educate myself more on what is expected to happen, and listen to people who are way smarter than I am or I will ever be, and see what they have to say. So I came across some very good, very interesting people and talks. And one of the things that came out was something which you just touched upon. It's that generally crisis has a profound effect on societies. Because if it's a shared experience, people tend to be more clearer about what's important in life at a grander level. And so you will see in your consumers that there is a lot of panic buying happening, and there is stocking up happening, and they are making decisions uh, out of panic and fear. And everyone is throughout the day swinging between two extremes. One is where they are trying their level best to secure themselves, their family, and their future, and on the other hand, they don't want anything to do with anything, and all they want is some entertainment, some escape. So this is what is happening to everyone. But at the same time, there's some deep, profound changes happening. I was looking at a trend of the last 6, 7 big global pandemic or crisis events, and something good has come out of all of them, whether it was women empowerment, whether it was black voting, whether it was generally a culture of kindness or a culture of holding your bureaucracy or your city admin more responsible. So there was so much positivity that comes out eventually. And the reason for that is that suddenly there is this collective awareness of or collective clarity of what is important. So it's interesting that you raised it, uh, and we can talk about this as people all evening. But the key thing is marketers. Does this have any impact? And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it right now, because you touched upon it. As marketers, it's very important for us to understand this, because the communication we do with our consumers, we can't be tone deaf. So if they are going through a certain profound mindset during these times, we cannot just look at the surface level understanding that. We can't just look at saying that, okay, people are doing panic buying, try to give them something that they will. We need to understand what is going through people's minds. And you, me, all of the people here, Umar, Daniel, everyone else who's going to be listening to this, we might be marketers also, business people also, but at the same time, we're consumers also. We're the same people we are talking about. And if we are
Yeah.
thinking like this, pretty much everyone is thinking like this. For example, I was surprised to see that one of the things that has gone up is people's reading habits and people consuming content around self-development and happiness and mindfulness and betterment and stuff like that, which goes to show that it's not all panic, it's not all crazy. There is deeper impacts happening. So, so this was the last question from our side. And I think in a very short time, you've touched upon some very interesting stuff. And this is kind of honestly the reason of starting this series, that we create reflection points for people. If people see these videos that we are creating and they give us their time, I don't think anyone can tell anyone in 10, 15, 20 minutes something that they've never heard before. But what we can do is give them pointers to reflect upon, and these pointers can be positive or they can be negative. And we want it to
Yeah.
be real and positive. We don't want pep talks and motivational speeches. We want something real. So thank you so much for that. And there was a lot of genuine weight in what you said. Guys, if you have any more questions, you can ask. I am done with my side of the questions.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, Mr. Zaini. I have one question over here, and that is that a lot of people who are in universities right now, girls and boys, they're aiming to become a director marketing in the near future, in the next decade, or something like that. With the changing scenario and with the introduction of online courses and with things changing so rapidly in the marketing spectrum, what is your advice to those youngsters in this times, in this period, basically?
Yeah, thank you so much, Amar. This is one of the traps that not only this generation, but has always been the case. And the only advantage to our current generation is the access to information and the opportunity to experience, to have so many opportunities now that basically you have everything that you really want to learn and understand and open your minds to at the access of your fingertips. And what I suggest for them is to try to accelerate their experiences, to get into so many fields that they can have access to, and then try to find where they can connect themselves to. And if marketing happens to be one of them, and it happens to be through understanding people and through the understanding of trends and how you are genuinely want to make a positive impact, then I would recommend them that they try to have volunteering work. Why would I say volunteering work? Because it is the opportunity for you to have the self-awareness, one, two, to have the appreciation for all the bounties. Now, we are really have a problem, not because of lack of resources, but I believe that because we fall complacent. We have so much that we all of a sudden become lazy in exploring new things and becoming curious. And that's why I say volunteering is one of the best things that ever can develop you. In my own career, I have done so many volunteer work with charities, whether here in Saudi or in UAE. I've also had volunteering opportunities in the US. And basically, you find the one common ground in that we are all, whether we are here in the kingdom or in UAE or in the US, whether we fall into one ethnic background or from different religions, we're all fundamentally the same.
Beautiful.
Very well said.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulaziz. My question is, according to economics, there is in business circles, we have boom, we have recession, we have depression. So in F&B especially, what is the stage of food and beverages companies nowadays? And also the consumers, may they change their taste after coronavirus or not? And especially also because I heard in some commodities, the companies, they don't have supply that much, and some companies they have stock, and the demand is not like before corona. So what you can say about this?
Okay, I just want, first of all, thank you for that question. I want to emphasize the point that we as humans are irrational. So that means we cannot deal very well with uncertainty. And whenever a challenge arises, we would immediately become that greedy consumer, and we're not thinking about only our consumption on a daily basis, but we'd rather to exaggerate. So when you have asked what would you expect on the F&B demands, we see a skyrocketing demands, and we understand and we also sympathize with our consumers, because today nobody would have the answer to how long would this challenge would last. So we have that opportunity. Now, all of a sudden, we have another set of challenges. How can we deliver on that increased demand? Given that we also have an obligation that we need to keep our employees safe, we have also to deliver on our quality assurances, and we also have to find innovative ways to meet the increasing demands when it comes to sustainable food supplies. Today, we have suppliers all over the world, in Italy, Germany, US. Some of those suppliers are unable to continue to supply food to us. So as someone who is in the manufacturing side, how can we meet that challenge and yet continue to be profitable, continue to be purpose-driven, and not fall into just making profit out of consumers' crisis.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your time, Abdulaziz. It was a pleasure, like always, talking to you.
Thank you, Ali.
Yeah. So thanks again. We'll be in touch soon.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Pleasure is all ours.
We'd always would like to be in touch whenever you're around. Just let us know so we can connect with you.
Will do. Will do. Adios. Stay safe.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Okay.
May God bless
Bye-bye.
you all.